The holographic feed crackled in the vast alien war chamber as an intercepted human transmission played on a loop. All forces fall back. Authorized deployment of Callsign, Warog. The laughter of the alien commanders echoed off the cold metal walls, cruel and careless. They had driven Earth's forces to retreat, scattering ships and soldiers alike, and this final message felt like a whimper of surrender. General Vri, a towering insectoid with polished mandibles, leaned back with smug satisfaction, raising a chalice filled with a thick, blue fluid. "Deploy their dog, let it come," he said with a sneer. "We've caged this planet already." But in the corner of the chamber, one junior officer, smaller, pale, nearly trembling, didn't laugh. His claws trembled as he stared at the repeating message. Vri noticed and clicked his mandibles sharply. "What is it, Lieutenant Croc? Why so pale?" Croc's voice faltered. "General, permission to speak freely. Callsign Warog, that name is real." His whisper froze the chamber more than any weapon could. The other commanders scoffed again until Croc raised his shaking finger and displayed a classified archive. On screen appeared declassified footage, a dim, grainy image of a lone human silhouette standing amidst the smoking wreckage of a downed alien cruiser, while entire battalions lay dead around him. Every sensor had failed that day, every weapon disabled without explanation. The legend of Warog was whispered in alien academies but dismissed as superstition, a boogeyman for soldiers. Now, suddenly, that name was no longer myth but a living threat. Hours earlier, the front lines had broken apart in panic. Earth's forces had been battered for weeks, battered by superior alien technology and strategy. The alien coalition ships formed a tight net around the planet, cutting off escape routes and bombarding cities with surgical precision. What Earth soldiers couldn't match in firepower they made up for in endurance. But even endurance had its limits. And now, with retreat echoing across every frequency, alien commanders felt invincible. This was a campaign of domination, a campaign where no mercy was planned, no quarter given. In the command room of the alien flagship, each alien commander added their own jabs. One remarked how human soldiers ran on fear and primitive emotions. Another joked about the pathetic primates clinging to their dying rock. The atmosphere was one of celebration, arrogance thick enough to blind them to subtlety. Meanwhile, the human generals had grown silent. The remaining units left encrypted messages that made no sense to their adversaries, messages filled with short codes, odd references, and one chilling constant, Warog. Reports came in of abandoned human outposts, scorched and wiped clean, leaving nothing for the victors to loot or study. It seemed like a desperate act of scorched earth retreat. But in truth, those outposts had been rigged with silent traps, quietly eliminating alien scavengers one patrol at a time. Still, the alien commanders dismissed this as random human defiance, a desperate refusal to surrender. When the alien forces marched into a human base deep in what had been one of Earth's most fortified sectors, they found a message scratched into a bunker wall in human script, crude and direct. "He's awake." The patrol commander laughed as he read it aloud to his troops. "Awake? Their dog? Let it bite," he joked. Minutes later, that entire patrol disappeared without trace. Only a single helmet was recovered, its faceplate slashed open by what appeared to be claws. By the time this report reached General Vri, the officers who had previously filled the chamber with mirth and mockery now sat a little more quietly. Their laughter had faded into forced chuckles as a creeping discomfort settled in. No one liked admitting that something about this campaign was beginning to feel wrong. On the outskirts of Earth's ruined capital, a lone alien reconnaissance drone caught brief footage of a human figure walking calmly through the wreckage. No armor. No heavy weapon. No backup. The man walked with casual confidence, as if he didn't fear the war above him. But when the footage was analyzed, the drone's telemetry revealed that every sensor on board had suffered unexplained glitches during that sighting. The feed cut out for 5 seconds, the exact 5 seconds where the man appeared, and reappeared only after he had vanished from sight. Aboard the flagship, paranoia began to spread in whispers. A junior technician asked an innocent question. Why do our systems fail when he's near? His superior slapped him sharply and ordered him to keep quiet. But rumors spread fast among soldiers. Warog wasn't supposed to exist. He was just a story, wasn't he? In another sector, alien guards stationed at a newly established checkpoint went missing overnight. Their weapons were found stacked in neat piles, and a fresh human dog tag lay on the console of their command station. The dog tag bore no name, only a number, 7. When a brave alien officer examined it, he noticed a human phrase engraved on its back. The translation froze him mid-sentence. One-man war. Across the blockade fleet, strange technical failures started to occur. Whole squadrons reported loss of communication. Surveillance drones crashed unexpectedly. Field commanders requested reinforcements and received no reply. The alien commanders scoffed outwardly but quietly ordered an increase in patrols and a tightening of internal security. But tightening security around a ghost achieved nothing. Earth's forces had fallen back by design. They were never surrendering. They were clearing space. The retreat was bait. Within hours, another intercepted message reached the alien commanders. A fragment of human audio played, garbled but unmistakable. Warog unleashed. Hunt begins. This time, no one laughed. Not even General Vri. At the edge of the alien blockade, an entire destroyer-class ship failed to report at its regular check-in. When a scout vessel approached its location, they found the destroyer's hull breached, its crew gone, and a crude human spray-painted symbol on the outer hull, a snarling dog's head, drawn in thick red streaks, likely human blood. Back in the flagship's war chamber, General Vri paced nervously while his lieutenants avoided eye contact. Vria's pride clashed with an unease he couldn't dismiss. The name Warog now echoed in his mind louder than the victory chants that had filled this chamber hours earlier. And so, the retreat continued. But it was no longer Earth retreating. It was alien commanders retreating from their confidence, retreating into fear. For the war they thought they had won was only beginning. The hours following the chilling revelation passed in a haze of uneasy activity aboard the alien flagship. The arrogance that had filled every corner of their grand command center had drained away, replaced by the faint but persistent sense that something invisible now stalked them. Alien commanders, who only a day ago mocked Earth soldiers as primitive animals, now reviewed security footage repeatedly, analyzing it frame by frame for any glimpse of their new unseen enemy. They called it superstition when junior officers nervously whispered about Warog, but their own growing unease betrayed them. Somewhere beneath their pride, they felt it too. Reports trickled in from various sectors, strange incidents that lacked explanation but shared a common signature: disappearances, sabotage, ghostly sightings of a lone human figure, and equipment failures that defied even the most advanced alien diagnostics. The humor that once defined the alien commander's confidence had turned into forced sarcasm, but their voices lacked conviction. One commander muttered dryly about how Earth soldiers must be resorting to primitive superstition, and his companion replied with a nervous laugh that rang hollow. Even their bravest officers now hesitated to lead patrols near abandoned human outposts. Those outposts seemed too empty, too perfect, as if inviting disaster. As the paranoia deepened, debates flared among the commanders. General Vri insisted it was an elaborate psychological ploy, and that Warog was merely a symbol of human desperation, not an actual operative. Others argued that the psychological impact itself was a weapon and that their soldiers were succumbing to irrational fear. They reviewed their intelligence files, digging deeper into every scrap of intercepted data about Earth's elite forces. It was in those files that they found records of an Earth operative whose dossier was almost entirely classified, his history obscured behind layers of encryption, his existence denied even in human records. His name was unknown. Only one detail stood out: a Callsign Warog. The file contained a chilling summary, written in plain text as if daring anyone to ignore it. It read, "Use of extreme caution advised. Subject operates without chain of command, without standard objectives, and without hesitation. All contact teams lost. Do not engage alone." That warning, buried in an old file, echoed louder than all the weapons in their arsenal. In response, the alien commanders assembled a task force of elite hunters, veterans of planetary sieges, armed with tracking equipment that had defeated every known camouflage and stealth system in the galaxy. Their briefing was brief and grim. Locate and terminate the lone human. Restore morale. The alien hunters departed with confidence, their armor polished, their weapons gleaming, their laughter returning as they mocked the very idea that one human could threaten them. They tracked heat signatures and electromagnetic emissions, analyzed patterns of sabotage, and set traps designed to corner their quarry. Hours later, no word returned from the task force. At first, this was explained as a communication delay. Then reports arrived of debris found along their patrol route, weapons stripped of power cells, helmets cracked in ways no weapon could achieve, armor torn apart as if by claws. The alien commanders realized with growing horror that their best hunters had not even seen Warog coming. While the alien forces debated their next move, another incident rattled them. A fleet refueling station in orbit around Jupiter's largest moon suffered a catastrophic failure, its main reactor venting plasma into space. What appeared as an accident turned out to be sabotage when investigators found a single message scrawled on the inner wall of the fuel chamber: "You are prey." The phrase, simple and brutal, sent shockwaves through the alien ranks. The commanders argued furiously now. One faction demanded full retreat and regrouping in safer sectors. Another faction insisted on martial law aboard every ship and outpost, enforcing strict curfews, limiting communications, and punishing soldiers who spoke the name Warog aloud. General Vree overruled both sides, determined to crush this threat through overwhelming force. He authorized deep scans, relentless patrols, and deployment of automated sentries. But no amount of surveillance could catch a phantom who moved without leaving traces except for the ones he wanted found. Earth's retreat was being reinterpreted by alien strategists, now not as a surrender but as a preparation. The humans had known they could not win through conventional means and had instead unleashed a weapon of fear, psychological warfare incarnate. The alien commanders began reviewing battle logs from past encounters, suddenly aware of small details they had overlooked, units that had disappeared without trace in earlier campaigns, battles where human resistance inexplicably stiffened after the mention of a single operative. It all led back to the myth of Warog, a myth they had dismissed until now. Soldiers aboard alien ships began refusing to disembark on patrols. Field officers filed requests to transfer far from Earth's orbit. The proud coalition, once united in their conquest, now began fracturing from within as fear spread faster than any human weapon. The paranoia deepened further when an encrypted alien transmission was intercepted and played back aboard their own ships, a taunt that should not have been technically possible. The message was short and devastating: "Your retreat begins today." The voice was unmistakably human, calm, cold, and laced with grim amusement. Alien crews scrambled to change encryption protocols but found them compromised. Even their secure systems now felt vulnerable, exposed to an enemy who seemed to understand their technology better than they did themselves. General Vree sat alone in his quarters, staring at the screen that displayed a flickering image of Earth's battered surface. He had once admired this planet for its defiance but had believed, as all alien commanders had believed, that Earth's resistance was finally broken. Now he realized they had misunderstood the nature of that defiance. Earth had not retreated because it was defeated. It had retreated because it had something far more terrifying than armies or fleets. It had Warog. The retreat was not a retreat at all. It was a hunt, carefully orchestrated, designed to lure the alien forces into overconfidence and spread their armies thin. The trap was closing. The fear was spreading. And Warog had not even begun. Elsewhere, on the surface of a ruined Earth city, the man himself walked through dust and ash. His gear was stripped down to essentials, his face calm and almost bored, as if this hunt was a routine exercise. He moved with precision, every step planned, every glance measured. His tools were primitive by alien standards: knives, explosives, traps built from debris and wreckage. But he understood something the aliens did not. The battlefield was not defined by technology or numbers. It was defined by fear. And fear was now his weapon, sharper than any blade, stronger than any fleet. The alien flagship drifted silently through Earth's upper orbit, its massive bulk casting a shadow over the fractured world below, but within its reinforced walls, shadows deeper than space itself were creeping. The alien commanders huddled around the central holomap, their confidence now cracked and brittle. Every new report deepened the dread they refused to voice aloud. Patrols vanished without trace. Recon posts fell silent. Sensors registered nothing but static where entire squads had once stood. In their arrogance, they had assumed that overwhelming numbers and superior technology would conquer Earth. But what they had failed to understand was that fear itself could become a weapon. And that weapon now had a name. Warog. The hunt for him, ironically, had reversed itself. What began as a mission to crush a final ember of resistance had transformed into a desperate attempt to survive unseen attacks that seemed to strike from nowhere. The elite alien task forces they had sent had been selected from their best veterans, soldiers trained to fight in every environment and against every species in the galaxy, and yet those same soldiers had vanished into silence within hours of deployment. The reports they left behind before their disappearances told a terrifying story. Sensors failing at critical moments. Comms jamming mysteriously when no jamming device was detected. Booby traps of staggering simplicity but devastating effect. Alien soldiers found dead not with sophisticated weapons but with crude blades, garrotes, and even blunt objects made from debris lying in the ruins. There was no pattern they could predict, no logic they could outthink, and it all fed the growing hysteria aboard the flagship. General Vree walked the corridors now with 2 bodyguards at all times, his once booming voice now reduced to tight, clipped commands. His aides whispered nervously behind his back, convinced that even aboard this most secure of vessels, Warog could appear at any moment. Rumors spread like wildfire among the crew. Warog could walk through walls. Warog could turn invisible. Warog had infiltrated the flagship itself and was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Vree ordered all security doubled. Then tripled. Checkpoints set at every junction. Sensors recalibrated every hour. Sleep rotations shortened. But no security system could defend against fear itself. On the surface of Earth, deep in the smoking ruins of human cities, Warog moved calmly and methodically. His face was unreadable, showing no rage, no pleasure, just quiet determination. His movements had purpose, not chaos. Every explosion that took out an alien fuel depot was precisely timed. Every sniper shot that silenced an alien commander's transmission was deliberate. His methods mocked their advanced war machines. Where the aliens used scanners, he used human instincts honed over decades. Where they used energy weapons, he used blades that never ran out of charge. Where they relied on numbers, he worked alone. And where they underestimated him, he was already inside their perimeter. Even as General Vree gathered his remaining commanders to plan the next move, news arrived that rattled them further. Their flagship's sister vessel, the Hammer of Dominion, stationed just 20 kilometers away, had gone completely dark. All attempts at communication failed. No distress signals. No power readings. When a scout drone was dispatched, its last transmission showed something terrifying. The entire bridge crew of the Hammer of Dominion lay dead in their seats, their command systems disabled, and painted across the inner viewport in human blood was the unmistakable outline of a snarling dog. A crude drawing, but enough to chill even the hardest alien officer. No alarms had sounded. No breaches had been detected. It was as if Warog had walked through sealed bulkheads and wiped out an entire command crew without firing a shot. The flagship itself was gripped by paralysis after that. Officers began carrying weapons everywhere, even to their meal stations, even to their quarters. Soldiers refused to venture into certain sections of the ship, claiming they heard footsteps in the darkness or saw flickering shadows where no one should have been. The power flickered occasionally, not enough to disrupt systems, but enough to unsettle already frayed nerves. It no longer mattered whether Warog had actually infiltrated the flagship. The fear he created was eating their chain of command from within. Their war machine, once precise and disciplined, was dissolving into chaos. Meanwhile, Earth's official forces played their part beautifully. Their retreat had not only drawn the alien forces into overstretching their supply lines, but had left them vulnerable to sabotage at every level. Communications relays were compromised. Supply convoys destroyed before they could reach the front line. Alien morale, once high and mocking, was now so fragile that even minor setbacks led to panic. What few attempts the alien commanders made to reassure their forces only highlighted their helplessness. They were trapped in a psychological war they could neither understand nor control, and Warog was writing every chapter. The breaking point came when an alien war council meeting aboard the flagship itself was interrupted by a chilling discovery. The food storage units, thought to be secure, had been breached. Inside, etched crudely into the metal walls, was a single phrase, "Sleep with one eye open." The room fell deathly silent. General Vria's gaze swept across the gathered officers. Some looked down at their feet. Others reached instinctively for their weapons. The message was unmistakable. Warog had been there. Or at least that was the belief. Whether he actually had or not no longer mattered. The seed of fear had taken hold. No one felt safe. Even aboard the most powerful warship in orbit, even surrounded by an entire coalition fleet, they felt hunted. One commander spoke up, voice trembling despite himself. He proposed immediate withdrawal from Earth's orbit, abandoning their conquest altogether, regrouping in deeper space where they could control the narrative and recover their shattered morale. General Vri dismissed him angrily, but even Vri himself hesitated before giving his next order. His hesitation was not missed by the others. For the first time, they saw that their supreme commander was just as afraid as they were. And fear among leaders is the beginning of collapse. Warog's campaign was not about destroying the alien fleet with brute force. It was about dismantling them from within, piece by piece, until they destroyed themselves. As night fell again over Earth, and the alien blockade tightened its perimeter, Warog watched silently from the shadows. His work was far from finished. The aliens had thought their war was won, but now their soldiers avoided eye contact, their officers slept with weapons close at hand, and their supreme commander paced his quarters with sleepless eyes. Warog had turned their invasion into a trap, and their overwhelming advantage into a liability. His name, spoken only in whispers now, echoed louder than any gun. The retreat they had mocked was revealed for what it truly was. Not a surrender. A reset. A reset that set the stage for their undoing. And Warog had only just begun. The alien flagship's corridors, once orderly and alive with the confidence of a conquering fleet, had grown cold and hollow, haunted by the silence of its own crew. Gone was the chatter of soldiers bragging about their easy victories. Gone were the loud debates between officers over how soon Earth would fall completely. In their place lingered an anxious stillness, a quiet made heavier by the unspoken dread that filled every shadowed corner. Even the lights seemed dimmer than before, flickering intermittently as engineers struggled to keep systems running amid unexplained malfunctions. Soldiers moved in pairs, never alone, their weapons drawn at all times, their eyes darting nervously at every sound. The very air aboard the ship felt different, heavier, as if Warog himself was now part of the atmosphere. Fear had done what no weapon could, it had made even this mighty alien fleet feel vulnerable, fragile, and lost. Within the alien command chamber, General Vri clutched the armrests of his chair, staring at the latest report. Another patrol missing. No distress signals. No sensor anomalies. Just another disappearance that made no sense. The task force assigned to guard the northern hemisphere of Earth had failed to report in after entering a sector where Warog had last been sighted. Surveillance showed nothing but scattered ruins and abandoned human fortifications. No sign of engagement. No wreckage. Only a faint symbol drawn into the dirt, a crude outline of a snarling dog's head, marking the place where the task force had been swallowed whole by an enemy they could neither see nor predict. Vri slammed a clawed fist into the console, denting the metal, but no amount of rage could push back the icy grip of uncertainty now throttling his forces. Even among his inner circle, cracks were widening. officers began blaming each other for the failures. Accusations of incompetence, cowardice, even sabotage were exchanged. Ree convened a meeting to restore discipline but found himself presiding over chaos. Commanders shouted across the table, voices rising not out of anger but out of desperation. A junior officer, desperate to restore a sense of order, suggested they lure Warog into an ambush using prisoners of war as bait. The proposal was immediately accepted. Ree himself seized on the idea as if it offered a lifeline, a chance to reclaim control of the narrative and crush this ghost that stalked their fleet. Alien transports were dispatched to gather human captives from the remaining prison camps on Earth's surface, and within hours, a makeshift holding pen was established in a ruined Earth facility near what had once been a major human city. The trap was set carefully. Drones and sensors saturated the area. Sentry towers were erected in concentric circles around the compound. Automated defenses were programmed with overlapping fields of fire. Snipers positioned on every rooftop. Elite commandos hidden at every choke point. Everything was calculated to perfection, every angle covered, every weakness accounted for. The alien commanders congratulated themselves quietly, exchanging glances that for the first time in days suggested a fragile hope that they might finally end this nightmare. They even allowed themselves to joke that if Warog was as reckless as his legend suggested, he would come straight into their jaws. The prisoners, unaware of their role as bait, sat huddled and silent in the cold ruin of the compound, watched by hundreds of alien eyes and dozens of cameras. But as night fell on the ruins, something strange began to happen. First, the outer perimeter sensors flickered briefly, registering phantom readings that could not be traced. Then, one by one, automated sentry guns began shutting down, their power sources mysteriously drained despite redundancies designed to prevent exactly that. Snipers reported seeing movement in the rubble, brief glimpses of a human figure moving between shadows, only to lose sight of him completely an instant later. And then the lights across the entire facility cut out, plunging everything into darkness. The alien commandos switched immediately to night vision modes, but within seconds, their displays began to glitch and fail, static spreading across their helmets as if some invisible hand was scrambling their equipment. Panic spread faster than orders could contain it. Units began firing blindly into the darkness. Explosions rocked the perimeter as ammunition stores mysteriously detonated from within. In the midst of this chaos, the prisoners were gone. When alien troops rushed to secure the holding pens, they found nothing but empty chains and a message scrawled on the wall in human blood: "You thought this was your trap." The words cut deeper than any weapon could have. By the time reinforcements arrived from orbit, every alien soldier in the compound had vanished or been killed, their bodies found scattered across the ruins, each marked by brutal, precise wounds that bespoke cold, surgical violence. No blaster burns, no high-energy cuts. Only blades and blunt force trauma. It was as if Warog had moved unseen through their entire force, dismantling it piece by piece while they fumbled in the dark. Back aboard the flagship, Ree listened in stunned silence as the after-action report was read aloud by his surviving intelligence officer. The report ended with a chilling observation: Warog had not simply rescued the prisoners. He had played them, baited them into thinking they were the hunters while he stalked them as prey. The alien fleet was unraveling, and worse still, morale was disintegrating faster than any commander could shore it up. Alien soldiers refused deployment orders. Officers resigned their posts, preferring disgrace over death at the hands of a ghost. Even Vria's own bodyguards now seemed nervous, hesitant, casting fearful glances down shadowed corridors as if expecting Warog to emerge at any moment. Discipline no longer held sway. Fear ruled now. The remaining alien commanders convened one final emergency war council aboard the flagship, voices hushed, their eyes haunted. Some demanded immediate withdrawal from Earth's orbit, retreating to regroup and reassess. Others feared that retreat itself would only embolden the human forces further. General Vree, weary but still clinging to his pride, ordered one last directive: if Warog could not be found, they would scorch the very ground he walked upon. Planetary bombardment protocols were authorized. Entire sectors of Earth's surface were designated for sterilization. The hope was simple: destroy everything, leave nothing for Warog to use, nothing for him to hide behind. But even this plan betrayed their desperation. For all their talk of scorched earth tactics, the alien commanders knew deep down that it was not Warog's environment that protected him. It was the fear he had sown inside their ranks. And that fear would follow them even into orbit, even into deep space if they retreated. Warog was no longer a man in their minds. He had become a symbol of inevitability. As the alien commanders argued over who would give the final bombardment order, the flagship's communications system flickered to life one last time, unprompted, unauthorized. A human voice spoke clearly over their secure channels, calm and mocking. Your war is already lost. The hunt is over. The silence that followed was not just the silence of a communication cutoff. It was the silence of understanding. Warog was coming for them next. The atmosphere aboard the alien flagship had collapsed from fear into quiet terror. The bridge that once bustled with confidence was now eerily silent, its officers tense and distracted, their movements stiff and mechanical, their eyes constantly darting to every flickering monitor and darkened corridor. Even the ambient hum of the ship's systems felt oppressive, like a low growl in the distance that would not stop. General Vry paced in slow circles, clawed hands folded tightly behind his back, his mandibles clenched so hard they clicked involuntarily. He had led countless campaigns across dozens of worlds, conquered civilizations thought unconquerable, broken enemies who outnumbered and outgunned him. But none of it mattered anymore because what he faced now was not a civilization or an army or even a nation. It was one man. One name. One nightmare that refused to follow the rules of war. Warog. Across the fleet, the cracks became gaping chasms. Crews mutinied quietly, refusing to patrol zones where Warog had last been seen. Soldiers deserted in the dead of night, abandoning their posts and escaping in stolen shuttles, even knowing there was nowhere safe to run. Whole sections of the fleet reported malfunctions that could not be explained. Shields fluctuated erratically. Engines misfired. Communications glitched, sometimes broadcasting human voices where no human signals should have reached. Messages from isolated posts were chilling and brief, often the last words ever heard from them. He is here. He is inside. He's watching us. And then silence. Vria's final gambit, the orbital bombardment of the surface sectors where Warog had last operated, was underway. Ships deployed en masse, surrounding the planet in a tightening circle, firing salvos of plasma and kinetic weapons designed to raze entire regions and turn any human hideout into dust and glass. The bombardment was merciless, thorough, designed to leave no stone unturned, no crater unchecked. Explosions lit up Earth's battered atmosphere, a destructive ballet orchestrated by desperate commanders eager to erase their failure from history. Yet as the bombardment continued, a terrible realization dawned on Vry and those around him. There was no resistance. No movement on the ground. No trace of Warog at all. Every shot fired, every blast crater created, and not a single confirmed kill or wreckage report returned. The bombardment was meaningless because the target was not down there anymore. The trap they thought they were setting had turned inward. Warog was not waiting on Earth. He was already here. As that truth crept into their minds, alarms blared throughout the flagship. Not standard alerts, but dissonant, chaotic signals indicating breaches in multiple sectors. Security teams scrambled, but reports conflicted wildly. In one section, a guard reported seeing a shadow slip past the sealed hatch. In another, a technician swore he saw a human figure reflected in a viewport even though the corridor was empty. Automated turrets rotated wildly, firing into empty hallways as if confused by phantoms. Doors locked and unlocked at random. Lights flickered and failed, plunging key decks into utter darkness. It was not sabotage in the traditional sense. It was psychological warfare taken to its extreme, a deliberate campaign to dismantle discipline, unity, and confidence all at once. Warog's methods were surgical, cold, precise, but the effect was chaos. No one aboard the flagship knew where he actually was, or if he was even physically present at all. Within an hour, entire sections of the ship were abandoned by their own crews. Vria's officers, those who remained loyal enough to stay on the bridge, were gaunt and glassy-eyed, their nerves shredded beyond repair. Vri ordered constant status reports, but the reports made no sense anymore. Internal cameras showed empty rooms where guards should have been. Bioscans reported no life signs in entire wings of the ship. Hull integrity alarms sounded where no damage could be found. The flagship, once a fortress of technology, had become a haunted house. And Warog was its ghost. The final blow came not from a weapon or an attack but from within. A mid-ranking commander, once proud and decorated, stepped forward in the middle of Vria's briefing and calmly placed his sidearm against his own temple. Without a word, without a farewell, he ended his life right there on the bridge. His action was a message to everyone. There was no more hope. No more honor. No more war to fight. Only fear. Only the waiting. The suicide sent shockwaves through the crew. Discipline collapsed completely. Soldiers began abandoning their stations en masse. Some locked themselves in quarters, refusing orders. Others fled toward the shuttle bays, desperate to escape a ship they believed was cursed. Amid this collapse, Warog made his presence undeniable. The flagship's main viewscreen, which had for days displayed tactical maps of Earth and the fleet's blockade perimeter, flickered and changed without any command input. It now displayed a single image, Warog himself. His face was calm, marked by dirt and sweat and dried blood, but his eyes were alive with a cold intensity that burned through the screen. He did not speak, but his silence spoke volumes. A predator who had won before the fight even began. The image stayed on the screen for exactly 10 seconds before fading into static. No one could explain how the feed had been hijacked, no one knew from where it had originated. But everyone who saw it understood what it meant. Warog was watching. He had been watching the entire time. Vri slumped into his command chair as his aides quietly filed out, each unwilling to remain any longer at their posts. He was alone now, surrounded by consoles and instruments that no longer obeyed his commands. The flagship itself felt hollow, a dead thing drifting through space. And outside, the once grand fleet that had come to subjugate Earth was breaking apart as panic spread faster than any virus. Ships powered down weapons and turned to flee. Others fired on their own escorts in confusion and terror. Alliances fractured. Chains of command disintegrated. The coalition that had once mocked Earth's resistance now became a disorganized scattering of cowards, each ship commander seeking escape, desperate to avoid the fate that awaited them. As Vri sat in silence, the last transmission he received before his communication console finally died was from his second-in-command aboard a cruiser now attempting to disengage from Earth's orbit. The message was short and broken by static, but the final words came through clearly enough to crush any last remnants of pride Vri still held. "We were never the hunters, General. We were the bait." Then silence. Vri closed his eyes, his claws tightening on the arms of his chair until the metal groaned. All his power, all his tactics, all his victories meant nothing now. His enemy had turned his entire invasion into a weapon against him. Warog had become something more than a soldier. He had become the embodiment of Earth's refusal to die, the avatar of every lesson the aliens had failed to learn about humanity's resolve. The bombardment of Earth continued for a while longer, a hollow gesture without purpose. But even as the alien fleet fired its last shots, it was clear to all who remained that the real war had already been lost. And Warog was still out there. The silence that fell after the alien fleet's bombardment was deeper than anything Earth's battered landscapes had ever known. Fires still burned in shattered cities, craters marked the places where proud monuments once stood, but above it all, a quiet had settled, oppressive and absolute. The alien fleet that had filled the skies only days ago was no longer a unified armada but a scattered collection of ships drifting aimlessly, many without commanders, others without purpose. Communications between vessels were erratic and filled with desperation, officers begging for orders that would not come, captains demanding reassurance from commanders who had already abandoned their posts or taken their own lives. The flagship, once the symbol of their dominance, drifted powerless in orbit, its systems failing one by one, its decks empty except for the occasional sound of something unseen moving just out of sight. The name Warog, once a source of laughter and contempt among the alien officers, had transformed into a curse they dared not speak aloud. He had become more than a man to them now. He was an inevitability, a force that had turned their superior fleet into a crippled husk, their proud commanders into frightened animals. Warog had not needed an army. He had not needed fleets or planetary shields. He had needed only their fear, and he had found it, cultivated it, and used it as his most effective weapon. Below on Earth's ruined surface, the few surviving human resistance fighters emerged cautiously from their hiding places, blinking at the strange, eerie peace that now hung over the war zone. They found abandoned alien checkpoints, piles of discarded weapons, supply crates left untouched. The enemy had not been defeated in the traditional sense. No decisive battle had driven them away. No superior firepower had routed their lines. Instead, their minds had been broken piece by piece until they no longer had the will to hold their positions. Even now, human scouts who ventured close to crashed alien dropships found evidence of complete collapse. Hastily scrawled notes left by alien soldiers who had deserted their posts, weapons dropped mid-patrol, defensive barricades left unmanned. Every sign pointed to one simple truth. The alien invaders had fled in terror from a single man. On board the abandoned flagship, deep within the command chamber, General Vree remained slumped in his command chair. His armor was unpolished, his once gleaming weapons discarded at his feet. The great war leader, who had once spoken of subjugating entire species and reshaping Earth into a colony, now sat in silence, staring at a blank viewscreen that no longer responded to his commands. His eyes were distant, unfocused, as if even his mind had retreated, unwilling to remain present in the aftermath of his humiliation. Every few minutes, a distant metallic clang echoed through the halls, the sound of some unsecured panel swaying or perhaps a loose conduit falling free. But to Vria's shattered mind, each sound was Warog's approach. He imagined footsteps behind every noise, imagined a shadow crossing the threshold at every flicker of light, imagined the cold eyes of his enemy staring from every darkened corner. And though Warog never appeared, the damage was done. Vree was already defeated. He did not even raise a weapon when the final breach came. Somewhere far from the flagship, somewhere lost in the void of space, a single human transmission was recorded by one of Earth's surviving satellites. A quiet voice, calm and almost conversational. The hunt is finished. No further broadcasts followed, and when Earth's intelligence analysts reviewed the recording, they understood exactly what it meant. Warog had completed his mission. No one knew exactly where he was. Some speculated he had returned to Earth and disappeared among the survivors. Others suggested he had never truly left Earth's surface, that his haunting of the alien fleet had been as much psychological as physical, a brilliant manipulation of fear and perception. A few even theorized that Warog was more myth than man, a name used by multiple operatives acting as one shadow. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was the result. The alien coalition, once the most feared armada in this sector of the galaxy, fractured completely within days. Ships abandoned Earth's orbit in scattered, uncoordinated jumps, some disappearing into deep space never to return, others colliding with debris fields in their frantic haste to escape. Supply lines disintegrated. Forward operating bases were abandoned without notice. The few alien commanders who survived these chaotic days returned to their homeworlds in disgrace, their reputations destroyed, their careers ended by a war that would now be remembered not as a conquest but as a failure. In alien academies, Earth's war would be taught as a cautionary tale, not because of any superior human technology or tactics but because of one soldier who turned the psychological balance of an entire campaign. Stories of Warog spread rapidly among alien soldiers. Exaggerated tales flourished, each more terrifying than the last. Some claimed he could breathe in space and walk unseen across the hulls of ships. Others insisted he could disable a starship with nothing but a knife. A few whispered that he was immortal, that no weapon could touch him, that his name itself carried a curse. On Earth, the remaining human leadership convened in secret, their bunker deep beneath the ruins of what was once the capital. Reports flooded in of alien withdrawals, abandoned installations, intact equipment left behind. Earth's leaders reviewed everything carefully, marveling at the strange completeness of the enemy's collapse. And while the official history would record the alien defeat as a combination of human resistance, sabotage, and clever tactics, the truth was that they all knew who had broken the enemy. In a private meeting room, the Earth Commander-in-Chief sat with her closest advisors, reviewing the final transmissions from orbit. A single folder lay open on the table in front of them, stamped with a classification level so high that most of those present would never be cleared to see it. The folder contained only one word on the cover: Warog. The commander closed the folder gently and spoke only once before rising from her chair. "We never ordered him," he volunteered. As Earth's survivors began rebuilding, as cities were slowly restored from rubble, as families emerged from shelters to reclaim their homes, there remained one absence none could ignore. No one knew where Warog was now. He had vanished as completely as he had appeared, his mission complete, his legend secured. But his name endured. It became a symbol of Earth's refusal to submit, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, even against enemies who outgunned and outnumbered them, humanity possessed something no alien commander could account for: resolve, stubbornness, and the willingness of one soldier to turn an entire war into a personal hunt. Across the galaxy, alien worlds would whisper his name in fear. On Earth, his story would be told quietly but with pride, a tale to remind future generations of the day the enemy learned too late that the retreat they had mocked was no surrender. It was bait. And Warog had answered the call.